For too many in Canada, an affordable home is beyond reach. So what needs to happen to increase the supply of homes of all types that more people can afford? Ahmed Hussein is Minister of Housing and Diversity and Inclusion. Obviously, the government has announced a lot of spending on this subject, and affordable housing is top of mind for a lot of people. Billions of dollars, in fact, have been dedicated to it. So can you give us a sense of the progress and how you think we're doing?
Well, we've managed to build and repair over almost 500,000 affordable housing units through our investments in the National Housing Strategy. Since 2015, we've invested $36 billion, which is more than any other federal government in Canadian history. We're moving ahead with new programs to address challenges raised by COVID, programs like the Rapid Housing Initiative. We've doubled funding to address chronic homelessness in communities across the country. So we're making steady progress, but of course there's more work to be done.
I think there's a hunger from some people to see tangible results, especially rental and affordable units. Can we point to anywhere that we can actually say these buildings were built and they're designated as affordable, or are we just adding to the general supply?
No. We are actually very much, our National Housing Strategy is addressing all the different housing needs of Canadians across the housing spectrum, from getting people permanent housing solutions, people who are experiencing homelessness, to also building deeply affordable housing, to building more rental supply through the Rental Construction Financing Initiative, and also really incentivizing more housing supply in general. We have the fastest growing population in the G7, but we don't have the housing supply that matches that demand. And so, yes, we are building deeply affordable housing through programs like the Rapid Housing Initiative that will result in almost 15,000 deeply affordable homes for the most vulnerable members of our community. The National Housing Co-Investment Fund is doing the same and has been doing the same. So we'll continue to do what we can to help people directly by building housing that is deeply affordable, but also providing rental supports through the Canada Housing Benefit, which is already reaching vulnerable renters across the country in all 10 provinces and 3 territories.
You've heard the critique that with all the money spent, we don't really know for sure where it's gone. We don't know, for instance, if the homelessness strategy is working because it's hard to track where the dollars have gone. How do you respond to that?
I don't think that's completely accurate. I think what the Auditor General spoke about, which we agree, is that we need to do better at data collection and analysis. However, we do know that the investments in Reaching Home, which we've doubled, by the way, to respond to COVID, is having an impact. I can tell you, for example, that we've prevented 62,000 Canadians from entering into homelessness, and we have made 32,000 Canadians who were experiencing homelessness to exit homelessness and actually find permanent housing solutions. We work directly with over 1,000 organizations, frontline organizations across the country that are dealing with issues around chronic homelessness, and we've funded over 3,300 projects across the country. And so we are having an impact, but yes, we agree with the Auditor General's recommendation to do a better job at collecting granular data and analyzing it in a way that can find more efficiencies and track the progress that we're making.
Not a ton of time here, Minister, but of course, a lot of the building of homes isn't at your level of government. It's provincial or it's municipal. What's your message to those other levels of government about solving the bottlenecks? And there are lots of them.
Well, we agree. That's why we're launching the Housing Accelerator Fund, which is the federal government's response to dealing with some of the structural barriers that prevent municipal, regional, and other orders of government from building more housing supply. So the federal government is putting on the table $4 billion to invest in those systems so that we can build more housing supply across the spectrum, all the way from deeply affordable housing to housing supply for home ownership. We need more housing supply in Canada. It's one of the biggest challenges we have, and we are ready to do our part through not only the National Housing Strategy, but new programs like the Housing Accelerator Fund, which will invest in systems changes at the local level so that we can unlock more additional housing supply in the next number of years.
Minister, we appreciate your time today. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Ahmed Hussein is Minister of Housing and Diversity and Inclusion. Well, more Canadians than ever are relying on food banks just to get by. And while those who work in the sector that support the food insecure welcome financial support, they're also the first to say that this is not a solution to the problem. Lori Nikkel is CEO of Second Harvest. Lori, great to have you with us.
Thanks, Amanda. Nice to be here.
So let's just start with the bad news of rising dependence on food banks. More and more Canadians use these on a regular basis.
They absolutely do. And right now we have about 5.8 million people in Canada who have reported to being food insecure. That doesn't include anyone in the territories or people living in Indigenous reserves. And it only includes the food bank network, which is up about 35%. Which is a small component of the entire food charity network, which is 61,000 charities that are providing food to people across the country.
So it's obviously, Lori, we're not suggesting people shouldn't continue to support these charities, to donate, to give money, to give food, everything that they're already doing. That's all good. Nobody's suggesting otherwise. It's not, though, getting to the root of the problem. Giving people groceries once a week doesn't actually help them become less food insecure, does it?
Not even a little bit. The only way you will become food secure is when you have enough money in your pocket to go and purchase food. And right now in Canada, for every one grocery store, we have 4 charities or nonprofits giving out food at no or low cost. So there has to be significant policy interventions to ensure that food banks and food charity don't exist at all.
What are some of those interventions that you'd like to see, short of giving everybody more money, which it sounds as though that is one place we should be looking. What's the best way to help people become more food secure?
Actually is giving people more money, and simply by ensuring that we have a livable wage in every province and territory. So our minimum wages just aren't keeping up with inflation. So that's actually a pretty simple solution. And we know that for every $1 increase in someone's wage, it's a 5% increase in the amount of food secure they are. So that's one way. We also have this housing crisis right now where rents and electricity and just being housed is incredibly expensive. So how can the government create policies to ensure that people can actually pay their rent and feed their children at the same time? And I know that there is a $500 allocation right now, but it's like a one and done thing. And really what we need is major policy interventions, not these kind of one-off, let's fix an immediate problem, because this is an immediate problem that is getting worse every year. And we thought it would get better after COVID. And with food inflation happening, the war in Ukraine, supply chain, food is becoming further and further out of reach, and especially healthy food.
And so I did wonder about that. Are food banks unable to offer as high quality, as healthy servings as they might have once because of simple things like the sheer cost of those things?
Absolutely. So, just to get ahead of lettuce right now in the city of Toronto is $5. That's unheard of, but that's true for everything. So the increase in food last year was 10%, so around $1,000 a family, and it's another 5 to 7%, another around $1,000 per family. So that kind of increase of $2,000 over 2 years is unimaginable. And so what people are forced to do is to purchase processed cheap food, which is technically food, but it's the kind of food that gives us worse health outcomes, worse educational outcomes, and we're going to pay for it in the end ultimately. If we're not doing it at the beginning and being preventative, there will be an effect, and it will be about your health.
Lori, so good to have you with us. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
Lori Nikkel is the CEO of Second Harvest. Coming up, poverty can be a trap that is hard to escape. At one grassroots charity, the answer lies in education and self-empowerment. Stay with us.